If you ask me to find a real live green unicorn within a 5 kilometer radius of my house, I'm not going to look very hard for it. You will not find what you do not believe is there. Some business owners do not believe that there are any good employees to be found. Therefore, will they find them? No. Maybe this applies to you, maybe it doesn't. But pretty much anyone who has ever employed anyone has a story to tell about bad employees. And sometimes we let those stories become prophecies. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that Kraken who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you bandits and chilies. This episode is called Feeling Stuck. Sometimes, as a family-oriented business grower, you just feel like you should be further ahead than you are, right? Like, yeah, comparison is the thief of joy and all that, but at the same time, when is that breakthrough coming? When are you going to get that great hire that enables you to get off the tools? When are you going to really take control of your lead flow and be able to reduce your stress about empty spots on the calendar, especially in the quieter months? When are you going to get off this plateau and break through to the next level? Heck, sometimes you even feel like you're going backwards. You think you're finally off the phones for good, and then your admin quits and training a replacement feels overwhelming. You think you're never going to repeat that particular problem or pain point. You know, we left that behind back in 2022, and yet here it is again, rearing its ugly head in 2025. Sometimes you just feel like if there was a big red button that you could push and it would instantly scrap your business for parts and you just wouldn't have to deal with it anymore, you'd push it. I've been there. I used to be on a cycle of wanting to push that imaginary button about once every 4 to 6 weeks. Then things would start to go smoothly for a moment and I would expect that button to reappear in my mind soon enough. Eventually I got past that point and I didn't even realize it at first, but it had been a few months since I had caught myself wishing that I could just push all of my problems away. If you've been in business for more than a few months, here's a fun exercise for you. Look back at a problem that you felt was really massive from 6 months ago or maybe 2 years ago. Remember that feeling? That problem felt insurmountable. It felt world-ending. But now what? You're past it. If that same problem came up again today, you probably wouldn't even be that fazed by it. You've grown. It's like a stone in your shoe. When it's happening, you feel this sharp pain with every single step. Then, when you remove the shoe, you tip it up and wait for this massive, jagged thing to fall out, and was that it? The stone always looks so much smaller than how it felt in your mind when you were stepping on it. Sometimes it's good to reflect on those past stones because it teaches you 2 really important lessons for the present. Firstly, you have grown since then. I know I just said that, but seriously, if you resonate with this description, congratulations, it's a sign of growth. Sometimes we don't see that kind of growth. It's like if you look at a photo of yourself from a year ago and realize that, hey, I really have lost weight, or whatever the case may be. But that sort of change, the stone in the shoe kind of change, it's harder to see because it's on the inside. It's harder to notice, hey, I've really grown mentally, or I'm really less stressed than I was at that point. So it's good to reflect and see that growth and appreciate what you have achieved and what you have become. There are plenty of people who are striving to get to where you already are right now. The second important lesson that such reflection can teach you is that the problems that you are facing now are probably much smaller than they feel. Imagine if the 2022 version of you could talk to the 2025 version of you and get guidance from you in how to overcome whatever challenges you faced in 2022. That would make an insane difference to that 2022 you, wouldn't it? Someone who had walked the exact same path and knew exactly what works and what doesn't. Imagine the stress relief that you could offer by helping your past self skip past all of the attempts that failed and move straight onto the thing that worked. Now, imagine that there was a 2028 version of you that you could reach out to right now who knew the best way to handle whatever your current obstacles are. Check out the episode called Why You're the Problem and Why That Is a Fantastic Thing. It highlights how just knowing that there is a path forward can help you to find it, and it also talks about transposing yourself mentally with someone who could overcome the problem easily. This is really helpful to get a perspective shift on the problem that you're facing. What is that, by the way? What problem are you struggling with right now? If you're not sure what it is, or if you can't narrow it down to one specific problem, try the focusing question from the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Might be a good idea to pause and think about this one. It's a great question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Okay, given that we're on sort of a pause, for this week's dad joke, I was actually really feeling stuck myself, and so I asked ChatGPT for some suggestions, and it came up with this one, which I thought was actually really great. I tried to unstick myself with a motivational podcast. Now I'm just enthusiastically stuck. So hopefully that's not the effect of this podcast on you. But now, back to that focusing question. If you can really nail down the definite answer to that question, then you have a really well-defined problem. And you know what they say? A problem well-defined is a problem half solved. So spend some time on that if you need to. What exactly is the problem? What is the one thing that you need to be focusing on? If you'd like some help with this, book a free clarity call, link in the description. For now, let's cover 3 common generic problems: lead generation, staffing, and delegation. Okay, firstly, lead generation. If you can solve this problem well, it really takes the pressure off in a lot of other areas of your business. If you can predictably book jobs on demand, then you are crushing it, and it must be another area of your business that has you feeling stuck or unable to scale if you're not growing right now. Most likely, that's staffing, which we'll get to in a second. But regarding booking jobs predictably, also check out the episode called Put $1 in, Get $15 out, Leave a Building. Anyway, as it pertains to lead generation, you basically have 2 resources at your disposal which you can use: time and money. If you don't have time, you should have money. For now, let's assume that you want to spend primarily time rather than money. This is a great place to start because if you have to learn some hard lessons along the way, it will cost you time to learn those lessons no matter what. But if you also spend money on those lessons, you are then left with less money afterwards, which could have been used to convert a time-based lead generation strategy into a money-based strategy. Basically, all time-based options can be converted to money-based options if needed. For example, if you start by spending primarily time distributing flyers or knocking on doors, once you have a proven system that is working, you can pay someone else to spend their time, and now, for you, it is a money-spending strategy. So what should your time-spending strategy include? Well, firstly, it should be just that, a strategy. A lot of the time, home service business owners, especially when starting out, don't take themselves seriously enough and don't think of their business as being a real business. So they might dabble in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, try this one on the size, didn't like the way that made my butt look, and then they just move on to the next thing without really ascertaining whether that was actually going to work for their business or not. To fix that, start with a pen and paper or a whiteboard or a Google Doc, whatever you like, but just begin by writing out your plan. Your plan should include the following. What outcome are you hoping to achieve? You can't even know if you're winning or losing if you don't begin by defining what success would look like. Write the SOP for your strategy, the standard operating procedure. Detail all of the steps, the specifics, and how they should be followed. For example, if you're going to distribute flyers, how will you determine which areas you will target? How frequently will you cover them? Will you hit them repeatedly with the same flyer, or will you have multiple designs? How will you track your progress? Remember, you want to be able to convert this to a money-spending exercise later. So how would you like an employee to do this? You're blazing the trail right now. You're pioneering the path, so you need to document what you're doing so that it can be delegated later. Define how many hours you will spend per week and how long you will commit to this experiment for. Ultimately, you want it to become a predictable lever. But right now, if it's new to you, it is an experiment. By thinking this through and writing down what you're committing to, you are much less likely to sort of vaguely do it and then decide that it didn't work. If you don't write this out, week 1 will likely look a lot better in terms of the effort that you put into it than weeks 2 and 3. Lastly, how will you track the effectiveness of this strategy? Before you spend a single dollar or minute on advertising, you should have a solid plan for how you're going to track your ROI. Again, if you don't, you won't be clearly able to distinguish success from failure. So to recap, that was outcome, SOP, define your commitment, and work out how you will track your ROI. Okay, let's put everything that we've just described into a 5-step plan. If lead generation is your problem and you follow this process, you will find a solution. Step 1, ask yourself that focusing question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Step 2, drill down and define exactly what the problem is in as much detail as you can. Book a free clarity call with me, let's nerd out about it. Step 3, follow the described process to plan your strategy. Again, that's outcome, SOP, define your commitment, and work out how you will track your ROI. Step 4, follow through on the actions that you committed to taking. Step 5, review and tweak. You've got your measurements built in by making that plan, so keep track of them and identify patterns of what is and isn't working. Final tip regarding lead generation. You do not need to make a lot of money up front in order for lead generation to completely revolutionize your business and take you to the next level. I mean, hey, making money up front is great, but really the main value of lead generation is on the back end. So if you can generate leads and keep your customer acquisition costs such that you are not losing money on the front end, well then that means that you can generate as many leads as your market allows for with that strategy for free. When those customers repeat in 3, 6, or 12 months, whatever is most common for your business, you get their returning business without re-spending that time or money on acquisition. And you can get that repeat business 5, 6, 10, 15 times from the one customer, depending on your industry. So if you are not making money on the front end, the revolutionizing change is still there, ready to happen. It just has a lag time of whatever your standard repeat booking time frame is. Can you wait 3 to 6 months to see the results? Can you lay the groundwork now for the future jobs that you will create later? All of this is much easier to achieve when you have thought it through well and developed a specific plan. Okay, moving on to staffing. This can be a real pain in the butt problem because you have the work there and you are struggling to get the team in place to complete it. Typically, for a small business owner, this also means that you then need to spend more of your time completing the jobs yourself, which means you have less time to recruit staff and actually solve your problem. Essentially, what you need to do is set up a hiring system that allows you to do the following. Always be hiring. You don't want to miss the best employee just because you didn't happen to be hiring until August and he was ready in June. Next, you want to get a ton of applicants to apply. Then you want to automatically filter down those applicants to the best of the bunch. You cannot interview 100 people. You just can't. But what if you could get 100 people to apply and then you interviewed the top 5 or 10 of them? Lastly, you want to onboard and train them as smoothly as possible. So to recap, you need to always be hiring, have a high applicant volume, filter applicants automatically, and onboard them smoothly. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can I do that? You've just said that I'm then going to be pulled back onto the tools if I have this problem, and so then I'm going to have less time to solve it. I have a free 3-day challenge breaking this down in great detail, and it also includes a free SOP template that you can use to build your hiring system from. It's called the 3-Day Hiring Game Changers Challenge, and the idea is to spend no more than 3 hours per day for 3 days and to have a fully working version 1.0 system that does all of those things. It allows you to always be hiring, get high applicant volume, automatically weed out candidates, and onboard them as smoothly as possible. You can access that challenge in the Classroom tab of the Family Oriented Business Growers School Group. Join via warplan.au, link in the description. A final tip regarding hiring. If you ask me to find a real live green unicorn within a 5-kilometer radius of my house, I'm not going to look very hard for it. You will not find what you do not believe is there. Some business owners do not believe that there are any good employees to be found. Therefore, will they find them? No. Maybe this applies to you, maybe it doesn't. But pretty much anyone who has ever employed anyone has a story to tell about bad employees. And sometimes we let those stories become prophecies. There are good employees to be found in your area. That's just a fact. But if you don't believe that fact, you are going to have a really, really hard time finding them. Okay, lastly, delegation. Even if you have perfect control of your lead flow and staffing, you're a wizard, Harry, you would still have a lot of issues in your business if you couldn't delegate well. Realistically, you won't solve those other two problems very effectively without good delegation either. At the end of the day, you cannot do everything and scale because your resources and skills are very finite. I can often be the biggest bottleneck to projects in my business. I am not a good implementer. I have great ideas, sometimes. Other times they are mediocre or even outright dangerous. But I have no problem having the ideas. Implementing them, on the other hand, that's a different story. So for me to get things done, I need to delegate. How can you delegate? This might sound like a ridiculous idea if you're currently a one-man show. However, you can still outsource problems or get assistance from others. Maybe this could be friends and family in the beginning, or perhaps even paying an agency to solve a specific problem. If you're not very tech-savvy, maybe it's beneficial to look into having a website and online presence built out for you, rather than for you to try to learn how to do all of that yourself. Here's the problem though. There's an endless variety of solutions and, presumably, you will have budget limitations. So how can you select what to outsource and what to chip away at yourself? I would refer back to that focusing question from the one thing. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? If you identify that your one thing involves skills that you don't possess, or you have the opportunity to outsource it to someone who can do it better and faster than you can, perhaps it's worth doing that so that everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. If you're feeling a lack of clarity around this point, book a free clarity call with me, link in the description. I'll triple your clarity or your money back. What if you have a small team? How can you effectively delegate within your team? First off, there's a great book by Dan Sullivan called Who, Not How. That's Who, Not How, which, if delegation is a pain point for you right now, you should definitely read it. But just 2 quick tips in regards to team delegation. Give the people that you want to involve a seat at the table before you just tell them what to do. If they're involved in the planning and decision-making process, if they feel that their concerns and point of view are heard, and if they understand at a deeper level what the point of this project is and how it impacts them and the business more broadly, then they will be much more motivated to throw themselves into that project. Secondly, once you are asking someone to take on a project or part thereof, ensure that they are clear on the scope of work. Make sure that they are empowered to make decisions. For example, if purchases need to be made, do they have a budget that they can determine how best to spend? Or will they need to run every single little decision by you? Also, clearly define the end of the project. Is there a set date or a particular set of outcomes? As with a problem well defined is a problem half solved, which still applies here, there is also another layer. You and your team need to be clearly on the same page about that well-defined problem and the agreed-upon solution. Any ambiguity in these areas will translate into delays, friction, and lower quality results if the project even gets completed. I hope that this episode has helped you. If you enjoyed it, let others know by taking a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your challenge for this week is to think of a time that you were stuck, how you felt, how you overcame it, and then draw on some of that experience to breathe life into your current situation. You've got this. That's it. Have an awesome day. Make someone else's day awesome. I love you, just the appropriate amount, like take whatever is weird and then take a healthy step backwards from that line. That's how much. Catch ya. Bye. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au. That's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Ah!